Alexander Nekrassov, former Kremlin advisor. But first...
Let's take a look at what the people on the streets had to say about Russia. Do they feel threatened by the Russian bear?
Yes, I do think they're bad.
Why?
I'm a gay person anyway, so just think it's really bad what they're doing to people like that, and the whole Ukraine thing's a bit...
Well, what are they doing?
Pardon?
What are they doing?
Their whole laws on homosexuality I don't find should be like something that's enforced in everyday life now, so yeah. Just think they're a bit behind and backwards at the moment.
There's a lot of violence, or in the media here, there's portrayed a lot of violence against homosexuals in Russia and it being made illegal, although I'm not sure if that's correct in my understanding, but and that's something when you live in quite a liberal, westernized society, kind of doesn't feel right.
No, I'm ex-military and I don't really see it as a threat. It's a big power. If it gets back in power, it will be a big power, but at the moment, no.
The way Putin is thinking, it's something like communist era.
Yeah, like,
you know?
Can you explain their way of thinking?
Yeah, like he's doing what he wants because he wants all the gas and the petrol and everything, and the big powers from West countries. They don't have enough courage to go to him straight away. You see, look, you've done too much already.
I think America will have another war they want the Cold War back. But it's about arms. It's about selling arms to different countries.
Alexander, a mixed bag of popular reactions, and it's hardly surprising. I've got the Daily Mail from earlier this week. Almost a spoof headline. It says, Russians spy on UK families via their webcams. Enough to chill the bone of every parent in the land. That Boris, with snow on his boots, is watching their children in their bedrooms or watching their kids brushing their teeth. This is becoming almost hysterical, isn't it?
Well, it is hysterical. I think it's been hysterical since last November when events started to unravel in Ukraine. I think that what we are witnessing here is Soviet-style propaganda, strangely enough.
Against Russia.
Against Russia, so it turns against Russia. And the interesting thing is, everyone is avoiding the main point, what happened in February, when a legitimate government was overthrown, basically in an armed coup.
Exactly. Yes, by violence.
Exactly. And that is where the whole thing started.
Yes.
But nobody remembers that for some reason in the Western media. It's always the events move forwards, and we talk about Crimea only, as if Crimea was something that Putin decided, guys, let's take over Crimea. That was nothing like that. First of all, what they don't understand, these hacks, I mean, is that Putin reflects what the Russian people want. He's not Cameron or Obama who decide, let's go into Libya, or let's go into Iraq, or let's go, I don't know where else they're going to go, Syria probably. And
they are there already. Yeah.
Well, they're probably going to go in big time. And the point here is that it's always Putin did that, Putin did this, and he decided, and so on. And this, I think, is a very important point that is being missed. It's the people of Crimea who decided to go back to Russia. It's not that Putin said to them to come back.
Not quite. Now, we'll come in a minute to that very last point that the former military man in your Vox Pops said, that it's about selling arms, it's about creating tension in the world for political and even military-industrial reasons. We'll come to that. You say the hacks have forgotten that.
Well,
that's not
forgotten.
Yeah, yes. I mean, it isn't true. They haven't. These are educated fellows. They are, in many cases, highly educated people. They know very well the sequence of events. It's willful distortion of the truth. I mean, Russians spy on UK families via their webcams.
It's laughable.
I mean, why wasn't that thrown out as an April Fool joke? Instead of being on the front page of almost the biggest selling newspaper in the country.
You know what they forgot to mention? That this website, this Russian website, actually revealed these clips from about 120 countries. Britain is just a small part of it. And these are all webcams, sort of private ones, which are showing rooms and baby webcams and so on, which make no sense, of course. The moment you read the
Yes.
article,
No,
you
it's absurd.
realize it's the headline.
The people who are spying on all UK families is the British government. GCHQ,
Well, the American
MI5,
government as well.
MI6, Edward Snowden
And he was
told us all
leader,
about it. Read all about it. I mean, that headline should have said, British authorities spy on UK families via their mobile phone, their internet, their webcam and everything else. Probably got somebody up your chimney. But
Not
we're-
forgetting the Americans, by the way,
Well, of
who are
course.
spying after everyone,
Of
on
course,
everyone.
even on Angela Merkel. Now, here's the point. Why did all these, the Anglo-Saxon governments, we can understand, the famous five of the former settler states, plus Britain, that unity is always. Why does Angela Merkel tamely go along behind Barack Obama's policy when it is deeply damaging to the German economy, which is already now moving into slump, and when the Americans were tapping her own personal telephone?
Well, I think it's a bigger game here. First of all, we must understand that America is trying to drive a wedge between Russia and Europe. This has got a political and commercial side to it. This is the whole game of this crisis in Ukraine. It needs to cut Russia off and flood the European markets with its own goods because it's sinking. America is bankrupt, let's face it. It's the only way it can save itself is if it takes over Europe through that dodgy free trade agreement which is trying to impose on them. With Merkel, now here is a difficult one because her own party is actually up in arms against her. Not all of them, but some of them. And I think she's playing a dangerous game here because the German economy is the biggest loser of them all if they cut off Russia completely. So I don't really, it's like a death wish. You know, she has a death wish, I think. Because
Maybe they found something compromising on her telephone.
Well, that is something I thought about as well. And you know why I thought about this? Remember when she went to the United States? Before that, when she met Obama, before that she was a bit, you know, she was
Yes,
a bit
quite feisty,
restrained.
yeah.
She was sort of saying, no, we should find a way around it. There were actually negotiations going on between Germany, Russia, and Ukraine behind the scenes. And so she was in a different... And then suddenly, after that visit and meeting Obama, she changed completely. Now, I was thinking at the time, it's my suspicions, but maybe, you know, they found something in her past when she was living in GDR that they could use against her, because I couldn't understand the transformation and the logic.
Hard to
She's not that
understand
stupid,
it,
is she?
Another way, yeah.
What about the Russian people themselves, the population? Are they aware of this whole Cold War rhetoric that's being resurrected? Well, here in the West, how is it? How is it being received there?
Well, I've been watching the Russian websites and in particular Russian bloggers, you know, who respond immediately to everything, and they will respond to that story as well. And I can tell you that yes, of course they realize the situation and they realize the massive propaganda that's going in the Western press, in the Western world, politicians as well. But the point is, and this is my opinion, personal opinion, I don't think that the Cold War had actually gone. The reason being, if it did, NATO would not have existed. But once NATO started to move eastwards, that meant the Cold War in a different type, in a different way. I'm not saying it's the same Cold War, but it started to sort of get back on the cards again. And when they went into Ukraine, and they did go into Ukraine, let's face it, that was basically the beginning of the Cold War again. Russia cannot allow NATO to be in Ukraine.
No, of course.
It's as simple as that. Putin had no choice but to respond. I think the West misjudged Russia's reaction. I think they thought they could swallow them like the Baltics or Bulgaria, Romania, and, you know, pay nothing for it. Just take it over. And it didn't work. And then they were absolutely astonished with Crimea. They did not realize that this could happen. And what they also didn't understand is that when they were saying, but yes, but Putin sent his troops there, you know, to take over Crimea. The troops were there already, an agreement with Ukraine, 25,000 soldiers and officers at the naval base in Sevastopol. And that base is the pride of Russia. And the guys, I know these people. These are real patriots of Russia. They were always saying, you know, Crimea has always been Russian. You know, 80%, well, 70-something% are Russian, ethnic Russians. And that was not Putin sending troops. That were the troops and the Russians there deciding to take it back to Russia.
Alexander, it's been